I've always believed that the more things change, the more they seem to stay the same. Sequels seem more evident of this philosophy than anything else in life. Therefore, a great sequel needs to add new content while retaining the core identity of the series. Dying Light 2 manages to capture the essence of the original while adding enough new features to make the experience feel fresh.
Thanks. It's good to see you, Spike. How long has it been?
Aiden, a lone pilgrim, makes his way to the city of Villador in search of his sister, Mia. He remembers fragments of his past. However, only one memory echoes in Aiden's mind, a promise he made to Mia to never leave her. So now he is trying to pick up the pieces of his past and keep that promise. The story this time around feels more personal, with a goal that hinges on being able to put yourself into Aiden's shoes. While I could do so quite easily, many players will feel it hard to connect with Mia, primarily because they don't interact. Instead, I felt more loyalty to the citizens of Villador and the characters that I was interacting with the most. The search for Mia feels more like an excuse to get into Villador and start the story rather than the story's focus. If players could interact with Mia before she goes missing, there would be more urgency in finding her and make her feel more important to the story. As it stands, Techland could have excised Mia from the narrative and slim clarity would have been lost, especially when it comes down to making important decisions for Aiden. Players spend the bulk of their time with two factions, the Survivors and the Peacekeepers. Survivors aren't officially a faction, and instead are pockets of communities that want to survive. On the other hand, the highly organized Peacekeepers attempt to maintain law and order within this lawless land. Choices tend to favor one side with little impact on the story. For example, in the first half of the story, I made a decision that made the Peacekeepers my enemies, with the faction leader of the area confronting me. However, when I arrived at the new location, their enmity reset and we were working together again. This lack of long-standing consequences makes decisions feel like they have little to no weight. Nothing happens even when choosing to revive the previous faction leader that could crumble the tenuous relationship between Aiden and the Peacekeepers. Instead, you see him again and everything you did just went away. He even thanks you for helping him and doesn't mention that he was ready to kill you the last time you two saw each other. This realization was when I started making decisions based on gameplay benefits rather than what I would prefer for the city. For example, the Survivors tended to make free running easier, while the Peacekeepers laid traps for you to lead infected and aggressive humans. I felt that the best choice for my playstyle was to make it easier to move around the city and avoid combat. Even though I tended to avoid combat, it still felt good to bash at enemy heads, and human enemies are easier to deal with while still challenging with a specific change: no guns. In the previous entry, human enemies were irksome because they would use firearms and lead more infected into the area. If they didn't outright kill you, then the infected rushing to the scene quickly finished you off. Whereas in Dying Light 2, it was still a risk to fight human enemies, but it was much easier to get the drop on them and quickly kill them before calling more of their friends. In addition, there are now more choices to blend parkour and combat, allowing players to quickly vault over enemies to kick another while dodging and blocking attacks felt thrilling. These techniques also enable players to swiftly escape if they decide that a situation is too much for them to handle. Parkour feels more refined and is where Dying Light 2 has decided to double down on. Keeping players in a more urban environment turns city exploration into a puzzle of staying on the rooftops, only dropping to the street level to transition to the next rooftop. The newer additions like the Sky Glider and the wall runs feel like natural upgrades to the system. I spent most of my time running around, seeing how fast I could make it to the next section of the city or my next objective. There is a fast travel system, but I never felt the need to use it, as I could miss out on a new pathway around the city or a new building I could raid for supplies. There always felt like I was discovering something new, and even now I want to go back. Dying Light 2 stumbles regarding narrative and meaningful choices. However, the combat and parkour systems are deep and will keep players engaged enough to walk from Madrid to Warsaw. I know I am itching to get back into the game and see what else is waiting for me. Noisy Pixel is giving Dying Light 2 a 8.5 out of 10. And as always, thanks so much for watching. Stop by and read the full review over on noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers that work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.